You start? Yep. Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Central Otago District Council. Welcome to our members of media who are joining us as well today, both here and online. I'll begin with karakia. Whakataka te hao ki te uru, whakataka te hao ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki utu, kia mā matarara ki tau, e hi ake ana te ata kura, he teo, he huka, he ha ho, te he mariora, which means very appropriately for where we are, cease the winds from the west, cease the winds from the south, let the breeze blow over the land, let the breeze blow over the ocean, let the red tip dawn come with a sharpened ear, a touch of frost, the promise of a glorious day. Very appropriate for this morning in Central Otago. In terms of apologies, we have an apology from councillors Claridge and Laws. Thank you. And just to note that we have councillors Ali and Patterson online.
Trying to get to Tracy.
Trying to get councillor Patterson online. So in terms of the actual apologies, will someone move those, please? Thank you. Sally, seconded. Stu. I confused myself by going with last name. Stop doing that. All those in favour, aye. Against, carried. Next item is confirmation of our minutes from the last meeting of this council, which was on the 8th of March. Anybody have any queries on that, or would somebody like to move them? Thank you, Sarah, moving them. Martin seconding them. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried. Declarations of interest, please be reminded. Sally.
I have a declaration of interest, item 23.3.4, Three Waters federal funding. I'm the chair of the Roxburgh Swimming Pool.
Thank you. I'll note that.
And your worship, you queried my daughter still being on the list. When she comes back here on holiday, she quite often gets to come to work in the pool.
Brilliant.
So that's why I've left it there.
I think that's entirely appropriate. Thank you. I just wanted to check.
Oh. Then no, so I'll get it.
Related to council appointments.
No. The Granville looking at. Oh.
Excellent.
I'll put that in the register as well.
Love it. Thank you. All right, this takes us through to the first item on the agenda in terms of reports proper on page 21, which is a report on the proposed ratings and fees update to our waste services. Welcome to Quinton. The floor is yours.
Awesome, thank you very much and good morning all. I'll take the report as read. So this report considers two items. One is the updates to the differentials for how waste bin charges are calculated on residence rates, and also the cost in upsizing to a larger red bin with the introduction of the 140 litre bin and having an offering of an upsize to a 240 litre bin available and how that's calculated. So the update to the differentials proposed is because with the new contract and some changes in the waste space, the way the rating charges are calculated needs to be updated to reflect where the costs lie. Some of those reasoning are listed on page 22 around recycling processing costs increasing and end market values decreasing, increased costs associated with closed landfill monitoring and maintenance. The introduction of the organics bins for food waste and green waste had an effect in lowering and the downsizing of red bins, lowering costs here. Less material to landfill through the introduction of organic service, and the fixed operational costs of operating the transfer stations with less material going through, and the introduction of a local processing solution for glass recycling. So the table on page 23 shows the current bin rates and then what the rates would look like with the existing differentials and then the proposed updated differentials there. The second matter around upsizing to a larger bin, two options are presented: a proportional increase, so based on the upsized literage of the bin at $300 for the total cost of that bin, or double the charge, and that would make that $350. And looking at comparisons for other councils that have upsizing, Ashburton District Council has an 80 litre bin, and it's $307 in the residential area for a 240 litre bin, and $614 in the CBD area for that 240 litre larger bin at Rotorua Council. It's a $136 cost to upsize, so comparable to both options presented, and $356 for an additional 240 litre red bin, so again comparable cost. Just as an example of comparison. I'll hand back to the chair for any questions.
Thank you. Questions, councillors? I had one, and probably more just for clarification. We've got that waste management charge going from $80 to 115, which is a fairly significant rise. Can you just talk through the reasons for that a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So the waste management charge is made up of a range of things that are district-wide waste activities. So that includes public litter bins, a proportion of the transfer station operations, recycling drop-off containers, management of closed landfills, and activities that benefit the district as a whole. With the introduction of the smaller red bin and less material going to landfill that way, less of the transfer station operation costs are incorporated through the red bin. So therefore, it's a larger fixed cost that needs to be spread over. So that does affect that increase as well as increased requirements around our closed landfill management and monitoring.
So it's just less input into costs that we can't change, so the per unit goes up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's actually for this current year's going from 74 to 115.
Yeah.
It would have been 80 this year without the new bins. Is that what I'm saying?
No, so that's just the current split of how the rates are split, which is an incorrect split, which is not assigning the cost where they like.
But it still means the increase is actually from 73.98 to 115.
I had a question. What is the charge for properties not on council service? I just read that one of the options that would increase that more, but I couldn't actually see how much the cost was.
Sorry, can you just clarify that?
What is the charge for properties not on council service?
So that's the $115. So that's the waste management charge.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so everyone pays the waste management charge, if you don't have bins, that's all you pay. But if you have bins, you pay the waste management charge plus the bin charges. So everyone contributes to that cost.
I see. Gotcha. I thought it meant people. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Can we just confirm, to be on page 22, that the approximately 1,400 tonnes of waste will be converted to compost? That's an annual.
Correct, and that's just the green bin, and it doesn't. Yes, sorry.
I think it's that's a very considerable.
Yes, correct, and that's just with the introduction of the organics bin. There's also going to be additional green waste captured that would normally go through transfer stations and different recycling. Yes, correct.
Quentin, you've recommended that the lesser cost for the larger red bin is your recommendation, whereas the purpose in some regards, the purpose of some of this is meeting government requirements now, but the purpose overall is to reduce waste in the red bin. So if somebody's wanting an extra red bin, I'm wondering why, knowing your passion for waste minimisation, you haven't recommended a slightly higher cost that would come from just doubling, the cost without it. What's your thinking there?
There's arguments both ways. One is the fact that the higher cost would potentially drive people not upsizing because of the cost limitations and different things like that. With the proportional increase, the cost of the 140 litre bin plus your organics bin comes out to the cost of what a 240 litre bin is currently. And then if people did make that chunks need to upgrade, that it would have less of an impact on the financial piece as well. On that, there is some other interventions that may be able to be utilised if the lower cost option was implemented to ensure that people give the bin a go in terms of having a 3-month stand down on the introduction of the ability to upsize, or there are other mechanisms that could be used for people to have a go, because this service is designed around the audits we have done, and we know that there's that large percentage of organic content going into the larger red bin that can be diverted to that organic bin. So there are other mechanisms that could be used to ensure people have a chance to demonstrate the use of the appropriate size bins.
Okay, Martin.
No option to downsize. You know, I'm a composter with a worm farm and incinerator. I'm not going to fill that bin.
Yep.
Not by a long shot.
Yep.
Then I'm a gardener.
Yep. Your red bin or your green bin?
Green bin.
So the reason the green bin is a big green bin is actually for cost saving. So taking the 240 litre red bin and doing a lid change is saving significant amounts of capital cost and rolling out a smaller 80 litre bin. When we come to renew bins, or if you ring me up and say your bin's broken, I'll ask you the question of what size bin would you like to replace with. And just on that, another really good piece of news that we've just been announced is MFE is, we made an application to MFE for the capital investment of the rollout of the new curbside service, and they're going to come to the party and support us with the cost of the smaller red bins and the lid change as well. So 100% funding the capital cost of those bins, which is really good news.
The counter to this, of course, now is that we've introduced green bin collection. We have put charges on for dropping green waste at the transfer stations. There's now cost involved for.
Correct.
So that's the balance, because you can't have it both ways. Correct? Right.
And there is a cost to deal with that
Exactly.
material. And previously it was around keeping that material out of landfill and trying to get the bootloads out of landfill. And now with the introduction of the organic bin, we're getting the bootloads should be going into the bin as well.
And there'll be a comms program around what can go in the organics collection, like meat.
Yep, absolutely. Bones and everything like that. But actually has being a commercial composting operation, it has a higher product acceptance and can actually deal with some of those hard to compost items that home compost may not be able to deal with.
I look forward to trying to find space behind my house for 4 bins.
Down in the worm tree.
What was that front item? Did you have, Christian? No, fine. I've got a couple. I got a couple. So just to get back to the doubling, it's just pure, you're not getting double by getting a bigger bin, so you're not paying for double, because you're not getting double.
Correct.
That makes sense. The other thing is, make sure I got this right, is that the current cost is 475 for 3 bin, and the new cost is going to be 515.
Correct.
That's good. And just probably not cover this report, but with the organic side of composting stuff, if people take their organic stuff to the transfer station or composting, or should go into the hole?
If they were to take food waste to the transfer station, it would not be accepted in the green waste area. There would be no provision at the start of the contract. So the only organics process we have is through the curbside collection. Once we work through the establishment of our organics plant, it would be able to be taken to transfer stations.
Yeah, so that's to come down the track.
That's to come down the track.
Thank you.
Is that it? Neil?
I thank you, yes.
Okay, I've got a question from Tracy. Unfortunately, something in our technical means we can't hear her. So on behalf of Tracy Patterson, can we get the recycling centre to take more items, as in different types of plastics? Because we've only got the, I'm going to say 1, 2 and 7. I can like 5. Thank you. I was testing. That's really good. Well done, team. What would be involved to allow us to get the transfer stations to take those border ranges? Is it possible?
Yeah, so that's so we're at the moment having discussions with our contractor coming in and also with Wastebusters as well around what do we do with those hard to recycle items, what do we do with e-waste. There's soft plastic recycling schemes and different things like that. So while they can't go into a yellow bin, because that is technically, if it's the wrong thing, it's contamination. Even if it is plastic, if it's the wrong plastic, it's contamination. So we're working with our our new contractor and also Wastebusters around what additional offerings, and another example of something we're introducing is waste oil collections and different things like that, so we don't get containers of oil and the bins filling over trucks and different things like that. So we're looking at those wider offerings outside of the yellow bin collection, but having more offerings at transfer stations.
Excellent. And just, no, just slightly on the same topic, but not exactly on the paper. When the red bin becomes a green bin, that's going to happen. People put it out on the curb and somebody's coming around and doing it.
Yep.
With our number of holiday homes in the area, how do we make sure we capture everybody and what happens? What's the nets underneath to try to get?
So we're just starting the process now in terms of starting that communications piece, because it's going to be really important. I would encourage everyone to be a good neighbour.
Yeah.
In the first instance, but we through the process we capture most through the rollout, and then there's always the tidy up as we continue going through. But yeah, the idea is to get the 80-90% first run, and then, but again, we're asking people to, if they do have a holiday home, ask their neighbour if they could help out with that process. But the indicative way it's going to work, maybe spoken through this moment, but the red bin will go out for a red bin collection, and then it will get the lid change and the new bin delivered at that time. And then the following week, when recycling goes out, it will get the latch put on at that point.
Just with the government's announcement yesterday that this is going to become compulsory for all councils by 2030.
Correct.
We're well ahead of the game, because I saw a LinkedIn post, somebody was congratulating about 5 councils who were already there. I don't know if that was an exhaustive list, but we're providing a service really ahead of time and above and beyond what most are getting us.
Correct, and with the introduction of a new contract, it was the best time to introduce it, and the most cost-effective time to introduce it as well.
All right, any more questions, councillors?
Is there provision for that fee to be reduced or removed for people that, we've had some communication, people with extra need for medical waste and that kind of thing? And there's been further to and fro, so whether you pay to the upgrade or not.
Council will be receiving a report at the April meeting with regards to considering the upsizing cost for people with additional waste requirements due to medical reasons and different things like that. So some councils do offer a free upsize for residents with needs be provided, and it's just important to understand the process of how we'd actually assess that and hold that information, different things. So we're looking at that option, and it will come to council for decision at its April meeting. So yeah, absolutely thinking about it.
Top points. Okay. There is a little bit of me that feels a little bit more on the extra red bin. Wouldn't hurt to encourage people to use less. But you've made the recommendation at A, B and C, so I'm looking for somebody to move that recommendation. Nigel's happy to move that. Martin's happy to second it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Excellent. Enforcement to get that. Right, we now move to the supporting documentation and consultation document for annual plan 2023, which will require a moment as we all move to somewhere else on our devices. So we have a race, but I fear I might come last.
And you're going to put that up on the screen?
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, all right, everybody there? No? Yeah.
Yeah.
Me.
Well, then.
All righty, fire away team. Oh, wait, sorry.
We just need to go to page 7. Okay, so this report is about adopting the annual plan. We have been through the community board, and of course we worked through the council with the budgets at the beginning of this month. The only real consultation issue is the Ice and Line project. So we have worked with Ice and Line Group to just step in and ensure that the project is still realistic when costs are going up and whether they can get funding. They assured us that it is all on track, and I have now received quotes for the project from Porter Developments dated March 23. So what they're telling us is actually right, that quotes been confirmed. They have provided us with the budgets, etc., and the funding streams look certainly very reasonable under the circumstances. So I have confidence that they are working through this in the right manner. We have also gone back to 2016 resolutions and done some work around the potential power savings to the pools. And there certainly is some benefit there. We've got more work to do on that, but there is a benefit on the heat exchange. So they were on a trajectory of over 200,000. And they're now sitting between 100 and average about 150.
Right, questions, councillors? Wow.
I just, it's interesting that we've only got one thing we're consulting on. And I guess for me, the important part of this will be what else comes out of the woodwork. Because I think we're still going to have people that are going to have other things they think we should be doing. And the way we put this plan together is that you encourage people to have a conversation about those things. So that'll be interesting to have. I guess there's it won't be as simple as just getting feedback on Ice and Line. The other stuff we get that's going to challenge us, because I'm sure some people are going to want some things that aren't in the annual plan that were in year 3 of the LTP that they either want to bring forward or introduce or whatever. But yeah, I think it's good that we're consulting, and I like the document that we've got with the issues that are in there. And easy to understand it, so that the community out there can too.
Now it's going to be a very good start for 10 for the LTP.
Yeah.
Indeed. So
You have one question. So I do have a question in relation to, so we've got the new global values incorporated in here. I'm hearing quite a few people have some questions about the evaluation. The process for that, which is the objection process, will that be completed in time for the rates to be struck, or is that happen afterwards? Do we know what the time?
the rates struck.
Which is good. Obviously, have corporate value respond to that. And our rates calculator is going to be up and running.
We just have to work through the process following the change in the waste charges.
Yeah, okay, cool, okay. But that'll be, so when this goes out, that'll go live at the same time.
Yep.
And I don't recall seeing that in the document. We pointed that out.
That's a good question.
Sorry, yeah, I've looked at it, but I don't recall seeing it.
So the link to the rates calculator, would that come up if people go, let's talk CRDC?
If it's the intent and
There's nothing in this document about it.
I think there needs to be.
I did notice that Roxburgh residence is missing off the rates example. So it's got Roxburgh Farm, large farm. Oh no, that's it.
It is.
State residence. Oh, sorry. I don't know. It's got one.
Because you're human.
I looked at that like I don't know how many times. I was like, no, it's definitely missing. It's there. It's there.
Thanks for selling, make me feel better.
Yeah.
we'll put something under those rates examples.
Yeah, I was thinking of just a box saying, hey, go here and check your own one type thing. I think would be really useful for people. Well,
I would just like to take council through item 9 proposal 7,
Please.
page 7 and 8 in the report. So there's a new 2 pages, I guess. We've tried to take this away from finance speak to to something that the community can understand. So this is all about the ratepayer, the Vincent ratepayer, and the loan back. So over time, over 20 years, so that the reserve account goes back into funds. So that is, so we've actually changed the narrative, some of the points there out. And if you can scroll down Wayne, please, to the table on the second page. So we have the clear options there now that are saying fully rate funded, 50% rate funded and fully grant funded. I think it's terminology that the ratepayers will figure understand the complex issue.
Okay, I'm just trying to bring up. So just back a little bit, Wayne, where we talk about the numbers. And there's been a few versions of this going around. I just want to make sure, because unfortunately I'm struggling with the new device. I had a feeling there was a version that went around that says the amount, the total amount that Ice and Line has received since 2018.
Yes.
That's
So-
not it, is it?
Yep.
So I remember the figure of almost $1 million being in there.
Yes, so if you go right to the bottom, Wayne, right, so in that option there,
Thank you.
we do have the total.
Yeah.
So we've drawn them back to the 650 plus this, so that the ratepayer knows that it's $1,050,000 that's been given.
Excellent. No, you weren't seeing the number. I was just looking in the wrong place. Thank you. Any further questions or comments, councillors?
I've got one, I just need to just do this quick calculation before I ask it. Yeah, so on the options, that you've got an impact on business ratepayers in $3.91. Is that per rateable unit? Because it seems low for 0.7%, for 0.76% rate rise. That's 0.75%. And if the annual rate's at 3,000, that doesn't. Sorry, I just
We might just have to check it, to be
Yeah.
honest.
maybe it's 0.0076% or something like 0.076. I don't know. It just doesn't intuitively. I just did a quick thing of $3.91 out of 3,003 and got 0.001. So
Yeah.
the number's the important thing.
Yeah.
But
Is that perhaps been calculated on a percentage of the Vincent component of the rate rise?
but even then, $3.91 for 0.75% seems far too high in terms of the percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sorry. I just I don't know why I wanted to say that. What can we do?
I reckon it's chocolate horse.
What's it do?
All right, so those two things in mind, a re-look at those numbers and a link to the rates calculator being put in. I'll take us back to the actual agenda. And we have A, receive the report, B, adopt the supporting document to the consultation document, and C, adopts the consultation document for the annual payment for public consultation. I don't think we need to put in those things, you're aware of them. I'm happy to move that. Neil's happy to second it. Is there any further discussion, councillors? Votes, all those in favour? Aye. And against, carried. Thank you very much. Alrighty, takes us to page 30 and the Three Waters Better Off funding shortfall.
Well, can I just make the observation about our annual planning process and how, with all the changes we've had over the years, all I see is it gets, in terms of fit out for the community, it gets better and better.
Yes.
And I think that's a reflection on the team that make that happen, because there's a whole lot of stuff that happens in the background we don't see, don't know, don't appreciate. We might contribute in some way, shape or form as elected members, but I just think it's really good that we are trying so hard and the team makes it possible. I think we just deserve the kudos for that.
Absolutely, thank you.
They won't get it, unfortunately, from the community because they just see the rates go down.
Well, there was. You're going to get a lot of The floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. I'll just make a few brief comments before we open it up for discussion. So when we were working through this last year in August, when we presented the priority list and contingency list, there was an error in the calculations, which has resulted in a shortfall of 404K. What you'll see in the paper is one option that does suggest probably the least disruptive option, and that is to allocate the shortfall to the sand filter project, which has got some funding in next year's budget for that. Option two, of course, is a councillor decision to take that shortfall off another project or varying amounts of those projects. And what we have today behind me is the project managers to talk to that. So rather than to try and do that in the paper, which got quite complex, what we thought when we open up the discussion, if there's projects in particular you want to know more about and the impacts, we'll have the project managers come up to the table to answer those questions. And just before I do open up questions, just where we are in some projects, the Alexandra pool liners, they have been ordered. That was quite a critical project, and for those that use the pool will notice that the liners are in a bad state. So that has been ordered from overseas. The other project of note is the Roxburgh pool fencing in the list there. We have made some pretty strong commitments to that committee to give them that funding. Obviously, naturally, a council decision if we wish to take from that funding, but there has been conversations with that group. So I'll open it up for questions and comments.
Thank you. Questions, councillors? I've got one or two. But Neil, you had one.
Mine's like, I get how it happened. It's unfortunate, but how do we stop it? How do we make sure we don't? You know, and that's best. No one meant to make this error.
Yeah.
How do we put something in place to not do it again? That to me is the numbers are the numbers.
Yeah.
But that to me is the most important part. So, you know, how do we learn?
Yeah.
And what we put in place is actually we don't do it again. Because I'm sure that how it happened, the person that was involved in school probably feeling like crap.
I think there's two things, particularly from the staffing sort of perspective. Obviously, is when we're putting out papers like that is to really double check our numbers. And the other thing in the debrief that we've had with the team is in the actual meeting on that day, it would have been really beneficial if one of us had just, because it's quite hard for the presenters that were sitting here, they're in the moment with you, working it all through, with someone to have been sitting there in the background, just making sure it all added up. So we've taken some lessons from. Obviously, it's not fun presenting this paper to you.
The question I had was a couple, probably all like the first one. We've lined ourselves up with these numbers to try to get the full amount of the 3.2. If any of these projects go over cost, that's going to be obviously a cost to us. So what confidence in our incredibly inflationary times do we have that these numbers are still secure and we're not already moving into the red on any of these projects? Because there is a part of me that's thinking we've got to make a change now. Do we make a bigger one to give ourselves some fat in the system for that contingency? Because I would rather give a couple of $100 grand back to the government than wind up with a couple of $100 grand unexpectedly on our side of the ledger further down the track if things go over the budget.
So what we do have in on the handout and on the screen, on the very right hand side there, we have some projects that do have contingencies within them. And we know costs have increased, and I think when we put these projects together originally back in August, we made some estimates around our contingencies that were pretty healthy is probably not the right word, but we had considered the increasing costs. So working through with the project managers, we're as confident as we can be that we're not going to have a blowout at this stage. So what we have done for you is put an estimated total project cost in there. So that's the second from the right there. And if we add up sort of our funding currently, we're looking okay, actually pretty good at the moment.
Second question. We're taking something out of this funding on the basis that we've already put the funding into whichever it is, of the LTP.
Next.
The city builders.
Yeah.
Which means that we're not taking the benefit of a $204,000 saving potentially to that side of the LTP. And yet I'm seeing things in here that have never been through an LTP process because, hey, we've got money we need to spend. What are the things that we can spend? So I'm not going to pick on anything in particular, but there is, well, look, I'll pick on two because they're just the first two that come up that we made a choice in, the digitisation of the relative property files or the RFID installation. They're two big chunks of coin that have never gone through the LTP process. And we're saying, hey, yeah, we'll keep doing those, but we won't take the advantage of a saving on something that will actually, given the rates increase we're looking at this time, we don't know what we're looking at next time, we get the benefit from. So I want councillors to be open. It's not so much a question, I suppose. I want the councillors to be open to other ways of looking at this that may give us greater benefit further down the track, and have we given enough scrutiny to some of these processes and projects?
I think you're right, but to me is the Sandfield project is a capital project, not affected by rates. So the saving it's a different type of saving. So it's out of reserves or funded through depreciation. So I think that's the difference. And I think that's why the logic is, rather than go back to the project, which you are otherwise going to fund through a different way other than just straight rates, it means you can still do other stuff that we agreed is important to get done and probably isn't otherwise going to get done without a big cost on rates. And then we would struggle to decide to actually fund that through rates. And that to me is the logic for leaving those sort of ones in there, because we've agreed they're important. I think that digitising rateable property files is the best thing we ever do, because that's the way the world is. So it's got to get done.
Yeah. But
we keep on kicking the can down the road otherwise.
Yeah.
So I think we take the opportunity we've been given, except that it hasn't gone through a long-term plan process, but it's always going to be difficult to get that sort of stuff through an LTP process because it's the first thing you kick out. Yeah. So I think the logic of a pool of a Sandfield of capital, that makes sense.
Any other questions, councillors, about our report notes? Or the plethora of staff that are here willing to defend their candidate?
Can we just pick on one just if we can? Should we? Who should we pick on?
The specific councillors, would it be helpful for you to hear from some of the project managers, in particular the RFID and the digitisation project, in terms of what the impacts would be? Would that be useful making a
I'm
decision?
not hearing anyone say they're going to pull them. I wanted them here in case my provocation caused anybody to say, let's look at that. I'm not sensing anybody's going to do that. So it may not be a valuable exercise. Any comments from offline that I'm not aware of? Wayne?
No.
I was going to move that we don't go ahead with the library refurbishment, but we probably wouldn't see me.
That answered the first. Yeah, right, let's do it. Yeah.
You should raise that.
Yeah. Opportunity to do this here.
Can you give us some accuracy statement?
Anybody else want to put their hand?
Right, I'm not sensing a great mood in the room to change things away from what those recommendations are. So unless I've got that wrong, does somebody want to move A through to E?
Yeah, I guess I'm with you that I'll move it, but I do think it's an issue that we do have cost overruns in this environment we're at. There looks like a massive pool of money, and many masses in that industry goes, let's make the most of it. And it'd be very hard, and there's a lot of it's hard to justify or see in the industry. I just want to make sure Tim was worried that all of a sudden we're not down the road and having to rake another $500,000 or $1 million because it's blowing out and it's out of the fingers of staff. That would be a real risk.
Before you move, Stu, I'll follow up on what you're saying. My anticipation is that some of these projects will be ready to go and others won't. And if some are starting to blow out, it comes back to us, look at this, and we have to drop something.
Yes.
So just to
That's when we have that debate.
councillors' assurance, we have a project group, so although this lovely staff behind us, and we meet monthly. And part of it is ensuring that with the project planning, where they are at this stage, how much they've spent. So we've got some really good finance processes behind that. So if it's looking like anything is starting to run over, we will bring it back to this table.
And quickly, because they can escalate quickly.
Right, do you want to move it?
Yeah.
Somebody want to second that? Thank you, Martin. Any further discussion, councillors? All those in favour? Aye, against, carried. Thank you very much. All right, we now move moving the council meetings to a monthly cycle. Wayne, that is yours and you're most welcome to do it from your seat there if you wish.
So I'll just. I'll take the beverage bit. So I was asked to do just a little bit of investigation on whether what it would look like to move from a 6 weekly to a monthly or every 4 week cycle, because I think that is different. A 4 weekly and a monthly, because there's 26 weeks in a year, about 12 months. So if you follow pay like I did, then you'll know that there's 26 weeks, there's 26 fortnights in a year. So I've done the models, and I've in the attachments I've put what they would both look like, so members can have a look and see if that's something that they'd like to consider. Just a couple of things that I will mention. If there was an appetite to move to a monthly meeting, or a 4 weekly meeting, if it could happen after the annual planning process is completed. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to put in my report, but happy finance team, happy life. And I think moving
Happy wife.
happy finance team, happy life.
So you the other one.
So I think moving if you're having meetings monthly, it wouldn't actually make a difference because those meetings are already at that time. But if you were looking to move to a 4 weekly, then it would move everything around, and we may have a very good finance team.
So thank you, Wayne. Questions, councillors?
To be honest, that's why we've gone for the last Wednesday of the month, when it's quite heavy with, there's a few months in there that are community board inside, and then it only gives us that 2 weeks, the November into December.
Yeah, I put that way simply because I guess there needs to be a meeting in December, because you know that it just ends up being a couple of months before you meet again. But of course, I can't put it at the end.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering why you've gone for the last Wednesday, like if you went for the 2nd or the 3rd, and the December one then lined up without, like the less movement, the better, I guess, if we're going for something that is.
Yeah. As far as community board stuff goes, I'd look to try and move it around a little bit next year.
Yeah.
In the timetable to maybe get them away from being in the same week.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And I think that the last Wednesday, it'll just be an anomaly, that last one in December. But I think that would be more of a meeting to just clean things up before Christmas. If anything else.
Is there a reason it is the last Wednesday? Is there
Oh,
is there anything per month that happens that it's beneficial to be at the end or rather than the middle or the start?
no, I wouldn't have thought so.
No, just an arbitrary
That's
day.
when we initially looked at it, it almost, you could choose any one of the Wednesdays, and there'd be a point in the year where that
Yeah.
condensement happened.
Either way, if you're at the beginning or the middle. Middle of the month, beginning of the month, you're always going to end up at some stage, you're going to have some congestion.
Yeah. I don't think there was any point in changing any community board meetings around for this year, because they're already there. And there's no clashes. We're asking anyone to do 2 places at once, maybe just a couple of times, 2 meetings in a week. But I think I'll try and move those around for the 2024 calendar to maybe have them the week before or something like that, so they didn't clash like that.
Yes, if anything's going from one to the other, there's a lead time perhaps. Right?
Yeah.
What does that do to January then? What's your expectation? We go back to the end of, so we've got 2 weeks from November to December, but then 5, do we, from December to January?
Yeah, it would be the end of January. I think mostly would have a meeting at the end of January anyway. Sort of that sort of time really.
It'll always be in the
It'll always be in the second half of the month anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Nigel.
I'm assuming one of the key drivers for looking at the option for weekly meeting or monthly meeting was concern we all had in the big long council meetings with workshops laid on top. So by the time you're sitting there at 6 o'clock at night, the quality of your contribution has gone down a bit. Is it right there? And reading this paper, I haven't got any reassurance that changing to 4 weeks will achieve anything, because somewhere there it says there's no guarantee that we'll be able to have shorter days. So changing to 4 weeks or monthly, and then end up being in a worse position, because in the nature of the beast, we'll end up sitting at 6 o'clock at night, wondering why they're not at home every month instead of every 6 weeks. So I just don't think that, as the report is laid out, that there's any evidence that would support a change if our primary concern is the length of meetings and the quality of contribution that we're trying to deal with. Especially when you're trying to deal with workshops where you've got speculative, you're being asked to think, and you haven't got full papers, so you're wanting more contribution from people. And so I don't see any, reading that paper, I think there's anything that will convince me, particularly from our present process, to achieve any of that, and potentially achieves worse.
Yeah, the reason I put it in that paper is because it's a risk you take, because you can't guarantee when a meeting will necessarily finish. Unless you arbitrarily decide it will always finish at time X. There's actually no way to ever know. So there is a risk.
Well, I think there's a real risk because
Yeah.
we know the avalanche of stuff that's coming
Yep.
at the organisation, and that's not going to stop. And so it's almost inevitable. You start trying to push it, or just have to get this in here, squeeze it in.
Yeah, inevitably that could happen. Yeah, which is one of
I was convinced from this paper, subject to what other people say, that there weren't any grounds for change at all.
Neil, did you? Yeah, Nigel's right, but he's also wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And he knows that, because the thing that is attractive to me about it is that we get a known meeting day, and when it's going to be always, 3 Waters is going in some way, shape or form. That workload will reduce considerably. So there is that. We don't know what that's going to look like yet. Will there be more stuff coming to replace it? Don't know. And that's the whole thing about this. Just don't know whether you're right or wrong. Don't know whether I'm right or wrong. But from my point of view, I'm prepared to actually give me some certainty about knowing which day it always is. And that's the benefit to me of saying that Wednesday. Yep. I'm not.
That's
so that's a plus. Yeah. So that's the biggest benefit to me. From what Nigel has said, no one should be naive to expect that actually it's going to solve the problem that we see we have, because what typically happens is the work gets made to fit the time available. Yeah. Is it better to do that every month, every 4 weeks? And hopefully, because that's what it is, it's a hope to try and get it to a shorter day or whatever, more focused day, whatever. But it's a risk. And I think you're never going to know until you try it. Now, I've been in this council, we did do monthly meetings. Was it any better or different? I don't remember. But man, we used to have some long days then too.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. And the other thing is, and it's probably, it also is going to give the staff some certainty about certain things as well. And the turnaround time will be sometimes quicker for some of the stuff we do. That's a benefit that I think that we can pick up on and build on. So you're right, but actually I think it's worth a pump's the wrong word, but I think it's worth trying to find out.
And I think we've the message we're trying to put out, as far as, what I was saying about these big workshops at the end of the day and how challenging it is for us to contribute. I think there's an awareness amongst staff. That's all we can hope for, that that those sort of things are considered. So, you know, depending on what actual business needs to be done in the meeting as opposed to workshops, there could be an opportunity to have that better balanced than it has been in the past. Now that there's potentially more meetings going to be held in the year,
Sanji, do you want to comment on this? Because
Yeah, I just want to, probably two comments I want to make. One on just cadence of every quarter, of the last, not every 4 weeks,
Yeah.
on having it more often, and the other on workshops. The core reason that we started looking at this was twofold. One was that things would come back more regularly to council, and if they couldn't make one meeting, it wasn't such a long time between drinks to get to the next one. And we thought the second benefit might be that it could be shorter. When Wayne went through and sort of worked it all out, that's, I think you've picked that up in the paper, Nigel said maybe that won't be such the benefit that we thought we'd realise. There is still the benefit though of things coming out more regularly, and therefore hopefully keeping momentum going on some of the projects and decisions you need to make. But Wayne sort of came to me the first day, looked at it, said similarly, like, it may not be as much time saving as we thought it would be. On workshops, I think there's two parts there. One is the awareness of staff, and one is the degree to which councillors want detail and to be involved in things. So together we can work on that. You guys can work on that together.
what do you think, Ian? You got a young family and perhaps more time pressure than some others?
I guess if the initial intention was to shorten the day or not make it go so long, but now we're hearing that that may not be the case, then I would probably be in favour of keeping it at the 6-weekly cycle.
Sally, what are your thoughts?
I am not opposed to bringing it a little bit closer. I think the monthly is probably meet in the middle, because it's not as many as the 4 weekly. I think the 4 weekly adds one more meeting in than the monthly. And the monthly is, it does mean that you know that you're always having a meeting on the last Wednesday of every month, which makes it easy. So yeah, I wouldn't be against moving it to monthly.
Yeah, you Sarah, you got a young family as well.
I think once we're here by 9:30 through to beyond 3, the travel from probably for me, it makes no, it's a full day here and school here and whatever for the kids, so it makes absolutely no difference to me whether we're here from 8 till 6 or 10 till 2. I would prefer we did more in a day and did it properly. I feel like the speed things move, as well as the time between meetings, I would prefer to be here more often, but I'm also fully prepared to be here for a longer day. Like, I think there's a bit of, I understand that how difficult it is for a long day, but we are here for a reason. And I think if that means that we need to be here for a long day, we need to be here for a long day, and it's a personal responsibility for us to all step up and engage from start to finish, not try and shorten the day to appease us. You know, I think once a month to concentrate for the day is not the end of the world. I think the schedule looks good. I mean, it probably looks nicer on the 4 weekly in terms of the spread, but no, the biggest thing would be knowing what day of the month you're expected. That would actually be really handy for public communication as well. You know, there's a meeting coming up, it's always this day. Just that simplicity would make a big difference. You know, this is when you've got an opportunity to do this, you know, you've got to get to start communication pathway for those meetings.
Okay. Wayne, how late in this year or any year would you need to be able to start putting the next year's calendar together? Because we can always review this if we decide.
Yeah.
About August, September, is that what it is?
Right, so we're gonna have 3 meetings.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, but what I will say is that it won't come to you until November.
Okay.
Yeah, probably. Or maybe October. So there will be a few months to figure out whether if it's working or not.
Temptation to try it over a short period.
Another comment I'll make is I can easily
bring a timetable of a 6-week cycle or a 4-week cycle to consider, if you wanted to do it that way.
Oh, you mean do 1/6?
Yeah, 2-1-6. Yeah.
It's going to be Monday, though, no?
It would probably be.
Can I just add to my first comments? After, I mean, I do agree that one of the things in favour is the certainty of second Wednesday of the month. And that, and to Sarah's point, not a matter of putting in the hours. It's that what happens all too often is you get workshops at the end of a long day.
Yeah.
And the quality of the workshops just really awful.
But that's something we can work on within the day, not say we're short in the day necessarily, we
So,
change structure, or we.
Yeah. And meeting more frequently does make things easier. You don't lose momentum quite so much on. So when I initially said, I said one of the prime drivers, but there are those other considerations. So on balance, I think what the other saying is maybe give it a feel.
Is there anyone here that this is going to make life really difficult? Right.
Well, I'm gonna have another meeting, more meetings than I otherwise would have.
Yeah.
But it's not insurmountable, and Sarah said exactly what it is. I'm here to do a job, and I'll do my best to make sure I can.
I mean, the benefit of it is actually, and I think Tracy brought that up a couple of weeks ago. If there's an issue like with cost overrun starting to happen in that last agenda item, it can come back to us a lot quicker. But it'd be harder to finance for them to run all that stuff. But you do have, it does allow you to, if there are pressing issues, you can deal with them a bit earlier than you would have to wait for another meeting. And so that way it has a benefit to the ratepayer, because some of that fresh stuff be dealt with the next meeting in 4 weeks' time. That's lots of, I've got to travel a long way, a lot more.
Yeah.
So just to, I just want to just caveat that slightly, because sometimes you'll make a decision here. The timing of the papers to be written for a week meeting that's 4 weeks done, 4 weeks away is very tight for staff. What it does mean though is that you might get it back in 4 or 8 weeks rather than 6 or 12. Yeah.
Thank you, Wayne, for reminding me we have folk online. Is Tamer able to talk, or neither of them? Tamer, do you have comment? I know Tracy can't speak. Tracy, you may email something to Wayne.
Not a bad thing all the time.
Can you hear me if I talk on this?
Thank you.
Yeah, great. I agree with Stu. I think it would be beneficial to be able to bring things back more quickly. And I've had a look around at what some of the other councils of a similar size to us are doing, and they are meeting a lot more frequently than we currently are. So although it would be extra days, I think that there would be some real benefits in that.
We heard anything from Tracy? No. All right, let's see what happens. I'm happy to move A, B, and C, and we'll see where we sit. Somebody wants.
So are you looking at a monthly cycle or 4 weekly cycle?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, right, gosh, right. Look, I think what I'm hearing is that the monthly one gives a lot more certainty. We know it's in this instance the last week of the month, but December pretty much. Yeah.
And you're happy to start in July?
Yeah. So do we need to actually change those? Or-
I'm just, it's changing.
So, thank you. And then you've got to take. On that basis, while Wayne's doing the typing, we're going to do it 4 weekly starting in July, which is already in C. Somebody willing to second that? Thank you, Martin. We'll just wait till sure it comes up so that we're exactly sure what we're doing.
You remember.
Well,
There's always a
Good idea.
change.
Just got to get the time right.
Well, I haven't quit.
So here's our new.
That's pretty easy.
Are you going to go to send and saying it's the 4th Wednesday?
Oh, yes, on the last week.
Is that the last?
It's last or 4th?
On the
Last.
So 5 is, it'll be it's 5 probably. won't it?
Right, so that's what's been moved and seconded.
Okay, and so you still. Oh,
Martin seconded.
Conditions.
All those in favour? Aye. Against? Yep. Anyone that recorded it? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. The date of our next meeting is not that far away. Then the old moment of extra right page, 19th of April. So thank you, media, for joining us. Great to have you here today. And I'll now move for the reasons given on pages 39, page 39, that we exclude the public. And Neil will second that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. We'll just pause for a moment while we make some necessary adjustments.
Sorry, I've got tradesmen at home.
Oh,